I'm a business guy. I've never delved too deep into meditation and this type of stuff. I would have been the last person that would have thought that this stuff would have been helpful, but it has been, it's been a gift.
Welcome to Still In It, 5-MeO DMT Stories. I'm your host, Arthur. Whether you're curious, preparing for your own journey, or reflecting on past experiences, we hope these stories resonate, inform, and inspire. Please enjoy today's episode.
This podcast is brought to you by Enfold, offering the world's most comprehensive 5-MeO DMT program. To learn more, visit enfold.org. That's enfold.org, or click on the link in the show notes.
Well, today I'm so pleased to once again be joined by a former Enfold guest and our dear friend, Tony Leblanc. Tony first joined us at Enfold in August of 2024 with his wife, Chantel, and then returned solo in July of 2025 this year. And Tony is an entrepreneur and business coach. And once again, Tony, thanks so much for speaking with me today.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
So Tony, as mentioned, you came for the first time in August 24 with your wife, Chantel, and understand there were some specific reasons, of course, for coming with Chantel that first time.
Yep.
And then you felt compelled to return to 5-MeO work in July of 2025. Mm-hmm. What would you say perhaps was resolved by that first journey in 2024, and what was calling you back most recently in July of this year?
Yeah, the first visit was 100% driven by my wife and I wanting to strengthen our relationship together, as well as probably more so on my side than on her side, to start or to try to deal with some issues of how I call it a lack of empathy, specifically towards her. And I had struggled for years to just kind of get to a place to where I understood her at a specific level, or more specifically, I understood and felt her pain. And we were kind of running out of options. And it was I desperately want to figure this thing out, and to be able to not only just save our relationship, but to make it thrive. And luckily I was introduced to, or a friend recommended to talk to the folks at Enfold, and we went over. And it's now been a little bit over a year since that first visit. And what has transpired since then in our relationship has been really nothing short of, amazing, right? It's just been a major shift in, I think, our closeness, how we interact as a couple, and more importantly, how some of the past ways that I specifically showed up have dissipated quite a bit in a lot of different areas. And this all stemmed from many small moments at the first Enfold visit, but one specific moment that I was able to really experience her pain emotionally, somatically, in every way possible. It just kind of ripped through me. And it gave me the gift that I was looking for going in there. And it's continued, and it's been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you paint us a picture for what that looked like, what the dynamic between you was like before coming in, and how it's different now?
Yeah. So when I talk about the experience of not having empathy, so maybe for people that don't quite understand that is, and a good example that I often share is, we could be sitting together and she could be upset, crying, very emotional, and I would be completely just frozen and cold and not being able to empathize or to be able to support, hug her. It felt very unnatural. It felt very awkward. It was like I was fighting against something. And I didn't understand what that was. I just didn't understand. And through the last day when we were doing our breathwork session, there was a moment in there that a lot of us in the room were weeping, a lot of tears. And she was beside me, and there was just very specific sounds, and hearing her cry and just feeling viscerally everywhere is like her pain. And I actually it's like I felt it. And that was a big opening for me, because I can instead of seeing her as somebody that's maybe just always very strong on me and, and thinking these different things, I could actually see her for the real person that she actually was, and that she's very vulnerable. She has emotions of herself, and she has all these different things. And for the first time, I actually saw those and I felt those things. So now going forward, I'm actually able to hold space in those moments and actually be able to empathize with her. If she's sad, or if there's something going on, I feel that I'm in a better place to where I can give her a hug, or speak to her on an emotional level, or even more importantly, try to prevent those situations from happening, because I'm more proactive in seeing kind of where she's at. And that was pretty big for us in terms of, I think, in any type of relationship where you have somebody that can be unemotional when somebody's very emotional. It's alarming, right? And not only was it alarming to her, it was alarming to me. I'm like, why? How can I be like that? I'm like, when I can watch a Facebook or a YouTube video and cry like a baby, but I can't show that type of emotion and open up with my own wife. So that was a big realization. So obviously it's helped us tremendously going forward in our communications, but just more importantly, I see her and I can see these situations much better, much clearer. And over time, I'm developing more and more capacity to be able to be strong enough to be able to kind of like go into these moments with her. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course. Yeah. It sounds like it's enhanced your ability to feel empathy and compassion for Chantel.
Yeah. And that for some reason, and it's becoming more and more clear as I continue doing a lot of this work, that I didn't experience a lot of that when I was a kid, right? I didn't have parents that were very compassionate or very lovey-dovey or touchy-feely or that. It was very, don't get me wrong, my mother was amazing, but it was just a different dynamic. So I never experienced a lot of that. And it's, at 49, I'm kind of learning to be better at it. So I'm trying to be anyway.
Yeah. It'd be a lifelong process. And it's, we encounter that a lot in the work that we do. You know, these things that were not modeled to us growing up are things that we need to learn later. And glad to hear that this is something that's coming more and more online for you.
Absolutely. And it gives you, it's like, it's a daily, it's not something that I ever forget, which is really, really good. It's not like one of these, you go and take a course and you kind of learn something and it just kind of disappears. It's like, this feels like it's part of me. So which I'm super grateful for. So it's always there. I'm not always perfect at it, but I'm still a work in progress.
Yeah. So it's enduring.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. Yeah. And so that, gives a little bit of background on your first for visiting. What brought you back this most recent time in July?
I just had so much fun that I wanted to see you guys again. Fun. That is a big part of it because I absolutely love you guys and everybody that was there.
Likewise.
I just saw the results that I got from that. And I'm like, where else can I take this? Right? I'm a very curious person. I'm very motivated to excel in things. And this felt like another one of those things to where, okay, that worked really well in that sandbox and that container, plus a million other things that I got from the first time. But again, the focus was on us. And I felt that I needed to go back to focus on me. As I continued to do the integration work throughout the year, it was becoming more and more evident that there was a lot of work to do in myself. A lot of traumas that I needed to deal with that I thought I'd kind of dealt with that were very clearly not dealt with, at least not to a depth to where I was getting real results from. And I wanted to go back and I wanted to do it alone because I know if I went back with her that it would be still a lot about us. And when we were together, the first time we were together all the time. So I didn't get a lot of time to like process things on my own. And I wanted that experience desperately because I knew the power of the medicine. And that's what that was going for. In one of the sessions I mentioned to Steve when he asked, it was like, it's like, I almost feel like now that I'm looking for empathy from me because I can be very cold with myself. And that was the start of like the unpeeling of the onion. And that still goes on today, and trying to download all of the learnings that I got from when I was there. So yeah.
Yeah. What were some of those layers, as you recall them, that you started to peel back or wanted to peel back during the visit?
It was mostly around dealing with some traumas from my childhood of having my dad leave when I was super young, and not really having a male figure in my life. And through the integration work from the first visit, I was realizing that there was a lot there that I hadn't really noticed. So one of my integration practices after the first session was to be super curious about, I would often ask myself, why do I do this? Or why am I like this? And those types of questions would be used in different areas of my life, professionally, at home, with my kids, this or that. And I would always write them down. I would meditate on them and try to do some integration work and figure them out. And I was making really, really good progress. But I was like, again, what else is there and what else can I be working on? So the whole abandonment issues were, I would say, front and center, which for me is my core wound in IFS terms. But I knew that there was probably other stuff that was there as well, but I just didn't know what they were yet because I wasn't open enough to be able to receive those different types of messages. So that was the initial draw back in, was simply that. I'm like, I need to understand why I am the way that I am, because there are certain things that I absolutely love, and there's some other things that I wish I would be able to be better at or do differently, and to be able to show up in different ways.
Yeah. What were some of the ways that you knew that there were more things to work on? Like how were those things showing up in your day to day? What were the signals to those?
So a lot of them were still relationship based. So examples of why do I prefer to be alone than be with other people? Why am I like an introvert? Why am I so sensitive? And why do I take everything so personally? I didn't quite understand that. Why is it that my wife can say a certain thing and firefighters just go and just pounce on her? I'm like, I caught myself in several moments, and even her as well. She's like, "Oh, firefighters are out." I'm like, wow, I didn't even notice that, but yeah, you're right. They just attacked you. And she said something very, very minor. So it was instances like that I wanted to be able to, again, kind of like dive deeper into it. Why do certain things bother me? Why do I procrastinate so much on certain things and then I can excel at something else? Some of them were very trivial, but as I've learned and kind of done more work on, it's like a lot of them come down into a funnel-like shape into the whole abandonment core wound world, but some of them were off on their own. But it was mostly like little things like that. I'd rather be alone. Why did my parents do this? And why didn't I have this? And, again, sensitivity and stuff like that were like mysteries to me, to where they were negative. I felt that they're negatively impacting me. And it's like, I wish I could figure that out so I could deal with it.
Yeah. Where are you at these days in regards to some of those things? How are they showing up these days? Or did you receive any helpful insights through?
Oh yeah, man.
This experience?
The second experience was very different from the first, incredibly different. From the dynamics to the way the medicine reacted with me. It was a night and day difference, both very special in their own very unique ways. So I think if I look back to pre-August of, before I went on the first one, and I look at myself the way that I am today, I think I'm a completely different person. Mentally, spiritually, and internally. I know from an outside perspective, there may be some similarities, but even my staff and my wife would probably say the same, that I don't lose my cool like I'm very much more patient, much more loving, much more understanding, grounded, more balanced, all these great things, a lot more interested in others instead of always just me type situation. I'm an only child. So again, a lot of things have kind of like come out of that. But the second visit, there was something that happened in the big dose ceremony that I didn't understand until literally Monday of this week. And I had a mind-blowing breathwork session, and it came. And it again, unfortunately, fortunately, it kind of came down to the whole abandonment thing, to where as I was coming out of the medicine, or even during, I was holding Stephen Austin's hands for a very long time, and I knew it subconsciously somewheres. And I knew I was rubbing their hands a lot, to the point to where I'm like, I think I'm rubbing out their hands or something. I'm gonna like, they're gonna cause bruises. And I asked Steve once we were done, I'm like, what do you think? Like, I go, sorry, I think that might have been weird or something. And he's like, no, it's all cool. And he's like, I'm like, what was your impression of it? And he said that was like, it felt like a baby holding on and rubbing her hands. And I'm like, a baby rubbing their hands. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And I've been racking my brain since I got home to try to find a connection to it. And again, through a breathwork session the other day, the title of the session was Healing Your Inner Child. So I'm like, oh, how apropos. I need some healing. So I'm going to do this breathwork. It was like a 60-minute breathwork session, which was incredible. And then after I finished the song, I played the song Through the Eyes of a Child. And there's a sentence in the song to where she says, once you feel somebody's skin, you let them in. And I'm like, I don't think I ever let my father or my mother in. And then I immediately saw my mom and my dad instead of Stephen Austin on the side of me, and I'm rubbing their hands.
Wow.
Then everything started like melting, and I'm like, oh. And then I just kind of went into a different world, and then things started to make sense. And I was able to kind of put some meaning, I think, behind what all that meant. So I'm still processing that, because again, that was literally 4 days ago. So I'm still very emotional about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Tony. And I think, obviously a very powerful and touching reflection, and also speaks to how this is very much a process, and that it's not just a single ceremony or the 5 days or however long a person would be in an experience like this, but it comes afterwards and through some integration work and further reflection. So really, respect and admire your commitment to that process and continuing to uncover these things.
The whole, obviously the week there is, again, it's I hold it as one of the best experiences of my life, and it's such a great, everything is amazing about it, but it's nothing compared to doing the work and the integration work and continuing some key practices that bring you back to those rooms and the ceremonies. And through breath work, you can get back to the medicine, like all these things, and there are all these tools that are at our disposal, that if we are truly seeking healing, guidance, and all these different things, the tools are there, but it requires a tremendous amount of, how would I say, persistence to work with it. It's not just going and meditating once and you're going to figure it out. It's like, it's a lot, and it's every day, and it's continuing to educate and to read and to podcast and the YouTube and like all these different modalities that I've been using. And I'm like, these are where the real gifts have come. But what I'm so grateful for is I don't think I would have never been open enough to even know how to receive or how to deal, or even the desire to even want to talk or think or try to do any of these things.
How has your relationship changed with, say, breath work and meditation, and how have they informed your integration and overall journey?
They're such a big part of my life. So I developed my own like custom meditation that I do pretty much on a daily basis, to where I go back and I've created, it's kind of like a portal to where I go back to Enfold every morning through every step of being there, every ceremony, conversation, every part of the house, every part of the outside, the beach, the walks, the conversations with you, with Steve, with Austin, and everybody there. And from there, at the end of the session, I do parts work, right? So some IFS work, and I just ask, I'm like, who wants to come out and have a conversation and who feels they need to be healed? And I do parts work, and I talk to the different parts that need to come up that day. And I'm surprised pretty much every day that something always comes up. Sometimes it's like whatever, not very life-changing or anything like that. But I've had many, many experiences to where these little components are coming up, right? I something happened the night before that triggered that part to come to the table that morning, and we start having these conversations. And it's what's kept me going. It's what has fueled me, because I'm seeing the progress. I'm understanding better who I am as a person, how I am as a person, and what drives me. And of course, trying to understand all of this, right? Reality, the world, consciousness, and, all those cool things. Again, I'm super curious. So I've used that again. It's for me, it's a daily practice. It's sometimes 30 minutes to 2 hours plus, depending on where I'm at. And then now, most recently, I've combined that with a lot more breath work. I used to do a lot of circa, which is done by Steve, but now I'm doing a lot of different types of breath work. And that just takes it to a whole other level, completely other level, in terms of where my head goes when I'm in a really, really good breath work. It seems to open everything up that much more. So yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah. It definitely sounds like it.
Yeah.
Some big things coming through I practices.
If I had a spy camera in my basement watching me on my couch every morning, I'd probably look like a complete fool. But like I'm just out, and it's like, oh my God, the things that crying to moving around weird to just being completely lost. Listen, I'm a business guy. I've never delved too deep into meditation and this type of stuff. I would have been the last person that would have thought that this stuff would have been helpful, but it has been, it's been a gift.
Thanks for sharing that. And it sounds like you really just give your permission. You give yourself permission to do and feel however you need to be and feel in that moment. And the results are speaking for themselves here.
Yeah. It just comes and it comes and it waves and waves of like this energy that just kind of runs through you. And it's cool.
Yeah. Because you just touched on it, Tony, I'd love to hear more about, your journey as an entrepreneur. I think earlier in a conversation, you said that you have a drive to excel.
Yep.
And we see a lot of people who are similar to you in ways, in that very accomplished, they can get shit done, as it were, but it's not necessarily leading them to the happiness and contentment that they were hoping that it would in all aspects of their life. And would love to hear how that journey has been for you, and perhaps how it has shifted with your 5-MeO and integration work.
Yeah. Incredibly driven in, I would say, all domains of my life, whether if it's athletics, sports, work, all those different things. I would say that there's part of me that says that if I look at the dichotomy of spirituality and the search for meaning and the understanding of consciousness, and kind of like that whole bucket of different types of conversations, versus the dynamics of being an entrepreneur, growing a business, and pushing hard, it's been challenging. It's been very challenging, because of there are days where I would rather meditate all day and be in la la land, and I've had to catch myself many times to where it's like, no, I'm like, this is not meant to be a crutch, right? This is meant to be a tool to be able to leverage, get understanding, and all these different things. So I would say it's been a mixed bag. The first year after the first one, I would say that there was probably definitely a little bit more focus on the learnings of spirituality type stuff, right? And I was less motivated to grow at all costs, like I usually was. That's how seems like how my DNA is. I'd say that's probably definitely balanced out since then. The drive is still there. Our businesses are doing fantastic. We're growing, we're building, we're doing this, we're doing that. Ideas are as many as they always were. And I feel that it was only probably mid-year that I started to bring in real life stuff into my meditation work. Before it was all about, what's the meaning of life? What's this? What's that? What's real and reality and stuff like that. Now I'm bringing more realistic situations to where someday I could be meditating on, what are some next big moves that I'm making, or some, just different, more balanced. So yeah, I didn't really see that coming in terms of it being for a challenge for me. And then I read Adyashanti's book, and he mentioned in one of the chapters that this is often a situation that a lot of people run into, to where a lot of people get into these worlds and they get into a yoga or this or that, and then they want to move to India and just be in a cabin the rest of their lives and just meditate all the time. And he's like, that's not what this is all meant to be, right? You're supposed to be able to integrate both and all these things into your life and live, to the maximum in all these areas. But I didn't realize that it would be like challenging, or that I would have been like, no, that's not me. I'm not worried about that. I'm a business guy. I'm going to do this. And so some of that came up, but I think that at the end of the day, it's been an amazing addition to the business world in the context of how I deal with my staff. More personable, more caring, different levels of conversations, and more open and receiving with them. So that's probably been the major, I think, positive point that has come. Yeah.
And what would you say to somebody who perhaps is listening and they're similar to you in ways, Tony, in that they're very driven, but like so many of us, there are things in their life that they wish were different. And they might hear some of that and worry that they might lose their edge, so to speak, through an experience like this. What would you say to somebody like that?
I would say that I think that in my specific case, the way that I'm personally driven is I think that this was what I was put here to do, and what I'm building is a very, very important, it's my expression of who I am, is through my business, right? That's kind of how I define myself in certain areas. So I think that, again, having the correct balance of different practices work versus kind of the integration work that somebody's doing, and having a community of people that you can talk to, surround yourself with great books that people are writing and share what to expect in situations like this, and to be able to deal with experiences that we've gone through. If you're going, if somebody's going to be considering going through a 5 experience, I found that to be incredibly helpful. And the 3 or 4 books that I've been focusing on have helped me tremendously to be able to get through some of that stuff. So I think balance is incredibly important. And just being prepared for all the different things that may appear, and just to be able to kind of have the patience and the wherewithal to be able to kind of just navigate through them all.
Yeah, thanks for that. What are those 3 books, if you're open to sharing them?
So, No Bad Parts, amazing. Adyashanti, what is it? The something about
the end of your world.
End of your world, and then Untethered Soul. Like I'm just reading those just back to back to back to back. Untethered Soul was, if I were to have like a favorite of all 3, that's a powerful book. I read it. I went through the first time and I'm like, wow, and then I'm going through it again. I'm like, oh, wow. But then I got to be careful not to get too lost in it too. So yeah. I find that with all those books, you got to step back a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like you found a really great balance where you're not just living to work.
No.
Yeah. You're finding a balance. Yeah.
Yeah, great way of putting it, because I would say for the last 15 plus years, it's living to work, and work dominates everything. Even though there's been a lot of like great stuff beside it, I've always wanted to be more, but I just never knew really how or what else there was. And this has really checked off some of those boxes. And I continue to find, more ways to be able to make it more fulfilling, I guess. Right? Because money is not, it's not just about money. It's about a lot of other things in terms of the pride, creation itself, building, giving an opportunity to, 80 of my employees and partners and all these different things that we're doing. That's what this is about. Right. And if I do a good job there, and then yes, I get rewarded, but there's a higher meaning to some of that stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't sound to me, Tony, like it's affected your business negatively, and if anything, it's improved it.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
We got some great things happening, so I'm super excited for what's happening.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Yeah. And also, given, Tony, that you have been to 2 of our intensives, so with 2 different sets of people, I'm curious if you have any reflections or insights around the different group dynamics between different cohorts of guests and yourself included, and how that informs or impacts one's journey, what you've noticed.
I think it has a big impact. I don't know if I would have known that as much if I wouldn't have gone the second time, but going the second time and having the duality of the 2 different experiences. And that's why I sent you and Steve a note, and I was like, have you guys ever thought of this? And I'm like, there was a massive difference. And I don't know if it's just in my head or if there's really something there in terms of how a group connects and gels literally from moment number 1 when we first meet each other on site, or from the Zoom calls before, and how that translates to the different ceremonies and what influence it has. Because our first visit, if I were to boil it down to like one word, it's love. Like we were just a love fest, right? I'm there with, 5 other girls, and it was just amazing. And we, it was just like, it was crazy, just amazing. And we were all, so I've been dissecting this quite a bit, so excuse me if I go into some details.
Go for it.
We were all, from the moment of the first ceremony, you could tell everybody was all in. Like it was nobody held back. It was like they went right to their core wounds, and it was like crying. It was like it was there, and nobody really had a hard time going there. It felt very natural, which is weird because we're all strangers. And I have a hypothesis that had an incredible impact on my ceremony, especially my big dose ceremony, because I remember what I felt and how I felt and what I think I saw. And I remember us all sitting at supper after, and we all sit at the table and nobody's really talking. And then Steve's like, so what'd you guys all do today? And everybody just cracks up. It's like, that was crazy. And then it's like, then we were talking and then people are crying, and it's like, it was just a wave of incredible connection and love and openness between us. And that's what I felt in the big ceremony. So I'm like, I don't know. There's part of me that thinks, I think that had something to do with it. The second visit was very different. We were a different crowd. We were 3 guys and 3 girls, which was different for me because I was the only guy the last time. All different walks of life, very different levels of openings, of being open and like receptive and working with these things. Some maybe more hesitation, I would say, of going super deep into some things. And you feel that energetically, right? And it's like you don't know how it impacts things, but you kind of know that it does subconsciously. And the various sessions that we had, whether it was the breath work or any of the medicine ceremonies. So if I speak to the big dose ceremony, it was way different than the first one. way different, and it was a lot more confusing for me. And I would dare to say it didn't feel as connected as the first one, which was, again, I'm like, I thought, it should be the same all the time. And then that's when I start thinking about group dynamics, and I'm like, what impact that has and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that the group dynamics can have an impact and a role on what some of the outcomes, or what you sense, or what you feel, because the energy is there, and I think it's part of these sessions, right? I don't know how they can't be.
Yeah.
Both were amazing in their own right, and all have downloads to be able to understand, just different. So I think that,
Yeah, that's a huge reason why we, just over a year ago, expanded our programming to accommodate slightly more guests so that we could tap into that group field and that group wisdom. And what we often remind people of is that there will be things that each person brings up in you, and things that the group dynamic brings up in you. And it sounds like in your case that might have led to certain contributing factors. So you therefore had a different private full release experience, even though nobody's in the room.
Oh yeah.
And and though it sounds like it was confusing, I wonder too, Tony, if without that confusion or lack of connection present, like if you wouldn't have had the same insights, like it's.
Oh, I know. I've stopped to try to think about it, because going there for the second time, I struggled the first day because I was always trying to compare it to the first time. And I quickly, when I got up the second day, I'm like, dude, I got to stop that, because I'm going to ruin this whole trip. And I desperately did not want to do that. I wanted to soak up every second that I was there. And, but it was admittedly, it was a little bit tough because you have this thing that you've experienced, and it's so good and perfect and high, and you want everything to be as good or better. Sometimes they're just different. They're not better or worse. They were just different. So I had to kind of get out of my head a little bit and just let the experience happen and lean into it. And, I think after my 3-hour conversation with John, then I was like, I'm good. I'm like, good. We're back in the pocket.
You guys were good buddies at that time.
We were in that room for a long time.
Yeah. And 2 returning guests, both you and John. Yeah. So you had that in common.
Yeah. So we had a lot of great chats, and that helped me a lot just to kind of get back into it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't want to miss this piece, Tony. I recall that you and I went on a walk towards the end of the intensive that you were on this most recent time, and wanting to talk about things that were coming up for you around death and mortality. And because you had known that I'd done some end of care work in the past, and then you recently shared a bit of a breakthrough moment that you'd recently had with a passing family member. I'd love to hear what was coming up for you around that time on the intensive, and what happened more recently. And
admittedly, death scares the crap out of me. Right. I sometimes I will catch myself and I think about it, and I kind of freeze, and I get really chills, and I'm like, oh, like this is going to end someday. And I could probably include that as one of the reasons going through all this is to be better off with that process, and trying to understand that a little bit more, and being more open to it. But I remember from the first time that when we had met, that you and Austin had kind of talked about that a little bit, and it's always been there in the back of my mind. And I had a note to myself that said, when I go up there, I want to talk to you more about it, to be able to understand. I kind of wanted to get a peek into the courage and the strength that it would take to sit with somebody and to be with a person that's transitioning. Because it brings up a lot of emotion, and it's like, it's scary. I get a little bit weird, and I'm like, I need to, again, I'm going to be 50 soon. So my parents are aging, and I've only had one person in my life that's passed, and it's my grandfather. And I still have a lot of pain around that. And so I just want to know a little bit more. I wanted to feel you, and to hear kind of some of the things that we shared and we talked about to get a better understanding of kind of what that was all about, why you did it, what it felt like to be with somebody, and kind of like how that impacted you and how does it make you feel. It's almost like I needed to hear that from somebody that I knew, right? And to kind of hear third party what that would look like. And then when I came back, it was like a couple weeks later, my father called me and he said that my aunt was placed in hospice, that this was a Monday, and he said she's scheduled for Friday to transition. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And I was like, where is she? Okay, she's at the hospice, which was literally right around the block from where my office is. And I said, okay, I want to go see her. And I hadn't seen my aunt in 30 plus years. Like we really didn't have any type of relationship. But as soon as I've never gone to hospice in my life. I don't know anybody that's been in hospice. I'm like, what's the link here? I'm like, I was just there. We had this conversation about hospice work, and now I get a call from my dad. I'm like, okay, I gotta work with this. So I went to go see her the next day, and it was an amazing experience just to be able to be in that room with her. I hadn't seen her in a long time. She was probably 60 or 70 pounds. She was down to nothing, years and years of lung issues and stuff like that. She was in a lot of pain, but she was awake, and we talked, and she was happy to see me. And I expressed, my love for her and, best wishes. And part of me wanted to ask her so many questions, but I didn't feel that was appropriate at the time. And then my father called me the next day and said that she had asked the doctors to do it sooner, so she passed the next day. And if it wasn't for that conversation that we had, I would have treated that as like, oh, shit, it's another aunt that I don't know that's passing away. My life continues, and I'm going to go back to work. That was not what happened. So I'm incredibly thankful for the talk that we had, and for the prompt to be able to just like, dude, like step away from work, and like she's down the street. You could walk there and just go see her. As hard, as awkward that might have been, you should be doing this. And it was amazing. And it's those little subtle things that I would have never paid attention to before. Never. Like I wouldn't even have thought it 2 minutes for something like that. And so the work that I continue to do with all this stuff is that, for me anyway, it's making me feel like I want to be closer to people. And I have the tendency in just keeping people at a distance because my father left when I was a kid, and I still have almost like a resentment towards letting people get too close to me. And I'd rather be alone. I'd rather be this. I'd rather be that. And those are stories that I've told for a very long time. And I'm trying to unprogram them to her. Like, no, you can let people in. You can see people for their best. You can be there for people. You can support them. Not be afraid to express love and compassion. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to do these things. And that's like a path to, I don't want to say enlightenment, but it's a path to more meaning and more fulfillment in my day. Because I felt really, really good with myself after I left there. I was like almost like proud, as like, dude, that was the right thing to do. Yeah. So
just be there for other people in those moments. Yeah.
That's hard for some people. Some people it's natural. My wife, she would have dropped the phone and she would have been there within 5 minutes. And I'm just, quote unquote, the cold guy that just if it's not for me or a benefit to me, I'm like, no, I'll pass. So I'm trying to transition out of that body and come into a new one.
Sounds like that's changing for you.
It is. Slowly but surely.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah. Well, Tony, this has been a very rich and hopefully meaningful conversation for you and certainly me and our listeners. But I'm curious, is there anything that we haven't yet touched on that you'd like to share before we say goodbye for round 2 here?
I think that the big thing that keeps coming back is the power of the integration work, and just we've been given such an opportunity to experience going through this 4-day experience at Enfold, that it's like it's conceivably it's like it's such a waste to not like just really go all out and kind of do the different things to extract as much as you can from this experience. And it just keeps on giving. It just keeps on giving. It just keeps on giving over time. It like I said earlier, it's like it's getting better and better and better. And there's so many groups out there. There's so many modalities. There's different things that you can tap into and learn from. That if there's and I completely understand that there's some people out there that are maybe less open, more afraid of going deep and kind of learning the different things about themselves. And I completely get that. I think I'm lucky to where I'm like, I want to know those things and try to work on them. But the integration part is just such a crucial part, that this experience can be fleeting. And I know it is for a lot of people that go through these things. It's a 4-day, had fun, best thing ever. 2 months later, it's like nothing happened. They're back to normal, and it's like, on their days. And I'm like, there are so many things that I think that can be continued and taken on from these things that would be so advantageous to others, that take it seriously. Integration it's not easy, but it's very, very fulfilling and very rewarding. And there's a lot of support out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for that reminder. And I think, coming through a process like the one that we offer, or potentially some other 5-MeO experience, that there will likely be changes that one will feel and experience, even if they can't quite commit as thoroughly to the integration process. But there's such potential there if they can and do, as you've so beautifully touched on in this conversation. For example, the breakthrough that you had 3 days ago, which was months
almost,
later.
A year and a half after the first one, and months after the second one. And it's I find that it takes time to it's almost like there's something that I'll give it to you when I think you can handle it type thing. Right? And you got to be in the right space. You got to have the right container. Sometimes all it takes is the right song, the right breath work, the right experience in person with somebody, or hearing something. It's like I'm so much more attuned to a lot of those little things that it's like, wow, I like this.
Yeah,
like this.
It reminds me. There's this funny saying, I think from Buddhism, where it says something like, enlightenment is an accident, but we can make ourselves more accident prone. And so, I think touches on doing the breath work and reflection and meditating and just creating space in our lives for the messages and gifts to continue coming through.
Yep. And curiosity, I think, plays a huge part of this as well. I think there's, I think we have to be curious about some of these things and willing to just to dare to even ask the question, right? Why do I do this? Or why am I like that? And be really serious about trying to figure that out and understand why. It doesn't mean you're going to change it. It's just, you now have a better understanding of who you are, and it makes you more confident. It makes you more this, it makes you more that. And I'm like, yep, totally like that. And I own it. Right. So I'm good.
Love it. Well, thank you once again, Tony. It's always a pleasure. And with any luck, we can do this again in a year or so.
Absolutely.
Round 3.
Absolutely.
But
I hope so.
But for now, I appreciate you taking the time,
welcome.
Wish you and Chantel all the best, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You as well.
All right. Thanks, man.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.